welcome back to another episode of Satisfactory, guys. On this episode, we are going to be really actually focusing on getting our starter base built and starting to pay attention a little bit more to some of the optimizations about miners, conveyors, smelters, constructors, that type of thing, so that we can be the most efficient we can with this small amount of supplies that we've got to start. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Alright, with what we had completed in our last episode going through the Tier 0 basic tutorial of the game, we did unlock some of the concrete foundations and some of the walls and things. So this is what we've got now, is we get the space elevator, which is something that we'll be working towards actually building. And then production-wise, we do have the Mark 1 miners now, and which I think we did have at towards the end of the other one. Biomass burners, we can create more energy now by creating more biomass burners. Logistics, still the same there. Conveyor belts and conveyor poles are there. Storage containers are all still the same. But foundations, this is what's different. We get ramps and standard foundations, and then we get some walls as well too. So that is something that we can really start to take advantage of, or for building out our base. And so to get started here, as I did get a platform built out here that leads over to this first iron node that's here. But there is something else that I wanted to show you. So this is kind of important if you're planning on doing like a mega build in the near future, or if that's a goal that you have in mind. So one of the things that they introduced in the world now with Update 5 is basically a world grid, so that you can, if you're going to be building a mega base, you have the ability to make sure that you're placing blocks down so that they kind of line up and eventually be able to connect all your bases together if you wanted to have them all as to one massive base. Because if you look here right now, I mean, I could spin this and I could place this down wherever, just like so. And obviously this doesn't line up over here. So say we were way off in the distance and we wanted to place down a block and we weren't sure which way we wanted to go with it. Well, they've actually added a world grid. This is something that's been asked for, and they've implemented it. So if you hit here and then I believe it is the control key. Yeah, if you just hit the control key wherever you're at, it locks to the world grid. So you know right off the bat that it's going to line up to where your base is going to be. So it doesn't matter where we put this. We hit the control key. And even if we're holding the control key down, we can move it and it kind of jumps around. That is the overall world grid. Now, granted, that's not going to do anything for height, but that's why you have ramps and everything, so that you can have these all connect properly and all that type of stuff. So the reason for that is just so that everything all lines up exactly the way we want it. And I'm going to sit here and lay down some more of these foundations over here, just so that we've got this iron node here as well, all part of our foundation. And as you can see, I put some ramps down here, so there's a couple of different heights and stuff. So that world grid is a huge bonus. So remember that when you're placing stuff down, hold the control key, and that's going to help you out. So the other thing we need to talk about is efficiency when it comes to your miners and the conveyors and everything. So if we look at one of these miners, so because we're on a pure iron node, if we look at this is capable of pulling out 120 ore per minute. Now, because we're so low leveled and low tiered right now, the Mark 1 conveyors that we have right now are just our standard conveyors. These conveyors are actually only capable of pushing out at 60 items per minute. So initially, to start off with, the best we're going to be able to get out of these is 60 items per minute off of one of these miners that are here. So we can run this conveyor out, and this here we know we're going to be guaranteed that this is going to be 60 items that are going to come out of here. And then eventually we'll want to make sure that when we're planning our base, that we make enough room for everything here so that we can have splitters put in and be able to split and head off into different directions to be able to, because there's no reason why we can't take better advantage of this and pull a feed off this and run it into different machines, because the next thing that we've got to put in is a smelter, and the smelter is only capable of doing 30 items per minute. So technically, on this particular unit right here, we could have 4 smelters lined up and running off of this one miner because of the amount of ore that's going to come out of this miner. So you got to keep that in mind when you're planning for your base. So we're going to do that right now, is we're going to plan, okay, where am I going to have these smelters and how I'm going to have the smelters lined up. So I'll get them placed, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so that I've got myself lots of room here to be able to drop in a splitter and run additional conveyor lines out on each side from the splitter, I've got my smelter all fired up here. And if we look at the smelter and I switch this over to iron, the fastest this smelter is going to be able to do is 30 items per minute. Our conveyor that we're using here is capable of doing 60 items per minute. Of course, our miner is capable of doing 120 items per minute. So this here is all rigged up. Now we've got to get this powered up and ready to go to get some production out of it. So let's work now on getting some power poles over here. And we'll get that unit rigged up and start to produce some iron for our starter base. This is what our actual starter base is going to be working towards. And then we've got to run a feed over to our concrete and run a feed over to our copper. And we'll try to keep the construction around each of those nodes instead of trying to bring it all back. We'll bring the finished products back to our base here. So bear with me while I get the power grid laid out for this, and then we'll get these units fired up and see how things are going. Okay, so I did start running some of the power lines and stuff to be able to get things all hooked up. But one thing I wanted to talk about, another thing that we unlocked after completing our Tier 0 upgrades was biomass. Biomass is a more efficient way to be able to generate energy. And with that, it is made from converting leaves and wood into biomass. So we can convert leaves and wood into that. Well, I did do some gathering here, so I've got some leaves. We'll gather those first. And I've just temporarily set up a constructor over here right now that we can use to be able to craft this. So I'm going to go down here. We're selecting the recipe biomass leaves. And then I'm going to throw in a stack of leaves into this. And this thing's going to start grinding away on here, of which it should be going right about, it says no power, yet I have power. Did I not turn on the generators? Let's see if I've turned on the generators. They are in standby, so let's actually click those on. That's generating. That's now generating. So this is now powering, and you can tell because the lights are turned green. So they're functioning properly now. So this is going to be creating a temporary little solution for us to be able to make the biomass fuel that we're going to use to run this unit. So we'll keep an eye on that. In the meantime, I'm going to keep running some power lines and get some of this other stuff up and running for us. All right, so we have fired this unit up, and right off the bat, we're getting 120 iron ore out of this miner. It's getting fed into our smelter, and our smelter is set to make iron ingots. So we at least have our iron production started, and then from here, we'll actually start crafting some stuff. Until we get more power generation and stuff, I'm only going to fire up one of the iron nodes right now, and then we'll move forward from there once we get things all cooking along here. Next, I got to focus on that concrete plant because I need to get that concrete going. Okay, so I ran a temporary power line over to where our concrete manufacturing is happening. We got the miner hooked in. This miner is capable of doing 60 items per minute. So that means the conveyor is a 1-to-1 ratio, and our constructor is capable of doing 45 items per minute. So we're not exactly at, we never have to worry about this thing starving out here, but we're not taking full advantage of what the conveyor system is capable of doing. So in the future, we'll want to think about how we could optimize this to be able to produce more out of there, And some of the things we could do later on is we will get the ability to add overclocks to our miners to try to at least get it up so that it's at, say, 90 items per minute. Because then we could split that into 2 separate constructors for being able to make concrete. But for now, we've got our concrete manufacturing happening. We've got our iron manufacturing happening. Now we need to make sure we've got the same thing for our copper. So let's go and take care of that now. Okay, we now have a miner in place and a smelter in place out here for our copper. Our copper ingots are now being created, and we are looking at this unit here. This is also a pure copper node. It'll do 120 items per minute. Of course, our conveyor can only do 60, and the smelter only requires 30. So we have the opportunity here, once we get splitters, to be able to split this up. So next thing we need to focus on now is, okay, what do we need to be able to get our next items like the splitters and faster conveyors, all that type of stuff? Well, that is completing our tier 1 challenges or objectives or whatnot. So let's run back to our hub and have a look and see what's required for getting our next tier completed. Okay, I've made my way back to the hub. Let's have a look at our next tier. So, of course, base building, we already kind of finished at the end of the last episode, and that's what gave us all of these different floorings and foundations and walls and all that kind of fun stuff. Next is logistics. This is going to give us our conveyor splitters, our conveyor mergers, also an elevator, as well as productivity display. So we'll be able to get some more information on how our productivity is going. So to be able to do that, we're going to need iron plates, iron rods, and copper wire. Well, we already have the wire and the plate. We just need some more of the rods, so that means that we're going to have to construct a constructor off of our iron line to be able to get that produced. So we'll run over here to our iron line, and we'll throw down a constructor in front of this and make this craft up those items for us. So if I hit my little Alt key and move to our second hotbar, as you can see, we've got our constructor here. We have the materials to be able to craft it. Now, if you look at the bar or at the placement here, you're going to see green lines that kind of shoot back from it. That just means that it's in line with our conveyor belts. So if you're trying to figure out, oh, how do I place it, how I line it up, hit the control key, and it will kind of guide you as to the best option to be able to place that. So we're going to slap that down. So now these 2 conveyors did not line up. So that was a really lousy example of that. Okay, you know what? It is still experimental. So let's try that again. Number 2. See, as you can see, there's like 2 different spots that it could line up at. We want it in the second one. And I think it's because it's kind of seen like a lineup with the actual miner as well. And the miners are slightly off from the world grid. So I think that's where that comes into play. And then we'll just shift over to our conveyor manufacturing. We're going to slap this through over to here. We are going to need to run power to this. So let's throw a power pole right here. And we're going to quickly just pull off this. So F, if you hit the F key, you can remove something that you've placed. Of course, you keep all the stuff for it. Then I'm going to hit 2. We're going to run power from here to this one, from this one to that one. And let's power this unit up. And you are making iron rods for me. So this is going to be able to make the last little bit of iron rods that we need to do. And how many iron rods was that? I think we had like 100, but I think we've used some now. So we need a total of, under logistics, we need 40 more iron rods. So this is going to take no time at all for this machine to shoot out 40 iron rods. And eventually we'll feed them all into storage units. So we're at 6. So I'll wait till those are done, and then we'll be right back to step out our next tier. While I'm waiting for these to construct, let's talk again about efficiencies here. So this item here, it uses 30 iron ore per minute to be able to make 30 iron ingots per minute. Now, to be able to construct these iron bars, it takes 15 iron ingots to be able to produce 15 iron bars. So that's as much as it can take in. Well, right off the bat, this machine is producing 30. So we're really only running half. We're only using half of what this line is capable of doing right now. So when we do get splitters, we'll be able to split this line and run 2 constructors making iron rods off of this, and to be able to be at 100% efficient. So this unit is going to be popping out 30 items. We'll split it, 15 each side, and then we'll be able to get 30 iron rods per minute out of the 2 machines. Okay, I've gathered up those iron rods. Let's head back in here and step that out so that we can get those upgrades that we want. So that's logistics. Select our milestone. We're throwing in 150 plate. We're throwing in 150 rods, and we're throwing in the wire, and then bango, launch. And if we run out here, this is now going and delivering those items to FICSIT Inc. So,
and efficiency of your factory. We encourage you to consider more verticality when it comes to factory logistics to streamline short-range transportation. The productivity display will help you measure and improve the productivity of individual buildings to aid with optimization.
okay, so now what do we got? We got, under our logistics, we now have the new elevator or conveyor lift that will move items vertically for us. We have a merger that takes 2 conveyor lines and up to 3 conveyor lines into one, and then we have a splitter which is capable of taking 1 conveyor line and splitting it into 3 conveyor lines. So that's things that we can look forward to here right off the bat. So let's take advantage of the, I guess iron rods really are like the next best thing to be able to take advantage of this. We need to think vertically though as we're doing this. So let's take this apart and see what's going to be our best scenario to be able to get the best production for iron rods out of here as we can. All right, so we have gone vertical with this. So basically I have taken this output of 30 items per minute. I have run it into this splitter. It's feeding 15 items per minute that way. It's feeding 15 items per minute up that way through that conveyor system. And both of these constructors are now manufacturing iron bars for us. And then I just quickly slapped together a ramp up here so it's easy enough to get up top here to do what we need to do to this constructor. So that's basics of trying to be able to get this all efficient and everything. So I mean, eventually we're going to come into some power issues, so now we need to try to get a little bit more power generation. So we're going to make another biomass biomass power generator, and we're going to start building a power plant that's going to go out this way, that's going to continue running all of these devices, because we'd like to get the other iron line up and running as well too. But if I tie that in with everything that we've got running so far, we'll start blowing breakers again like we were doing at the end of the last episode. So let's get a power plant all set up here. So I'll be right back. Okay, I've added another power generator in line here. So this is a biomass burner that's generating more power for us. So we are, we're doing okay here right now. We've got biomass getting burned up in these generators. We've got, and they need to get topped up again. And I've just added 200 from here. And those are from our little temporary manufacturing unit that we have here, where I could just keep slapping some leaves in. And that keeps generating biomass for us. And then eventually I'll end up throwing some wood. But next now we should be looking at our next tier of construction, which is our field research tier. So now we need to start looking at being able to manufacture some screws. And screws are made from iron. So we need to maybe take a line off of our iron production here. Instead of it being iron bars off of one of these lines, we'll have it feed in to be able to make iron screws for us on that one. So let's get that set up and see where we go from there. So one thing we're going to look at here real quick is I have just thrown the constructor down for being able to do the screws. And when I look at the screw recipe, it requires 10 iron rods to be able to do that. So one thing that we could look at in the future when we start to get to 100% efficiency and we have enough resources coming in to look after this is this particular unit. Okay, right now we're getting 15, if we look at this here, we're getting 15 iron bars per minute out of this. This only needs 10, so there's 5 excess that's here. So technically what we'd want to do is we'd want to take this conveyor feed off of here, plus this conveyor feed off of here, combine them to be able to get 30, then run those 30 into a 3-way splitter, and then have 3 different constructors that are making the screws. And that is going to be 100% efficient. Obviously, because we don't have another iron node, like that iron node that's over there is going to be for making iron plate from, we can't really, at this point, afford to take up another iron setup to be able to do the iron rod manufacturing. So for now, we're going to sacrifice a little bit of efficiency to run this through in here just to be able to get our screws up and manufacturing. Hello, Bean. Just walk on through. No clipping there at all. You walked right through that flooring structure that's up there. Not the brightest thing you've done today, I'm thinking. Anyhow, let's get this tied in, and which is typically just running a conveyor. Let's get to the right hotbar. So running a conveyor from here to here. This is already configured. Now we need to get some power to this unit, which we could just steal from this line. So that's from here to here, and bam, we are now manufacturing screws to be able to get the next phase of our tier construction completed. So what was all needed for that again? Let's have another look at this. Copper wire, we're good. We've got lots of copper wire. Plate, we're doing okay right now because we had a lot of plate that we had crafted during that whole opening episode that we did. So it's just the screws. I need like 156 of them. That's going to take a little bit. We'll be right back once those are all constructed, and then we'll get this tier 1 complete, done, launched, and then we can start working on tier 2. All right, while I was waiting for the screws to finish manufacturing, I did go through and tie that line together, get it powered up, and that's now manufacturing plates for us. So plates are back being manufactured again. Let's run over and let's turn in this next tier of items. So we run over to the hub, we select field research, and what are we going to get out of there? We're going to get our MAM, which is our molecular analysis machine, an object scanner. We're going to be able to get a beacon, a personal storage box, so we can actually make a bunch of these storage boxes. And what else are we going to get out of there? A hand slot, so we're going to be able to have 2 weapons. That's kind of nice. And more inventory slots, so that's kind of important. So let's select this milestone. Let's add in our stuff. There's the copper wire is added. Our screws are added. And our plates are now added. And launch. There goes the delivery unit. Another milestone.
Referred to as the MAM will allow R&D to provide new technologies, items, and buildings based on samples collected in the field. To ensure a greater chance of success during exploration, an upgraded tool belt has been provided, as well as an object scanner and beacons.
All right, what do we need to be able to build the MAM?
Calibration via the MAM to enable detection of specific objects.
So the MAM needs 10 reinforced iron plates, a bunch of the cable, and a bunch of wire, all of which we do have. And we're just going to slap it right beside here. So we put our equipment manufacturing shop there. This is our field research. So if we look at the field research, there's different things that we can look at in here. Alien organisms, there's hard drives, which we'll get into later on, nutrients, sulfur, and so on and so forth, unknown metals, there's fungus, there's strange energy readings, unknown crystal minerals, so lots of things that we can work on research. Well, some of the stuff we can actually do right off the bat. And that's these little doodads, I think these ones, and this. I think we can come over here and let's have a look at what we got. So alien organism. If we go and actually select this and start researching, it's going to unlock some stuff for us. So the analysis of the alien carapace is complete. Please choose a new node in the tree to begin analysis. Okay, great. So now this is going to give us another recipe for being able to make biomass with this one. Now, I don't have enough. I don't have enough of the appropriate materials, which is more of those carapaces. So we have to go out and kill out a bunch more of those alien little dudes that were out there. The ones that kind of that look like a, I don't know, like an armadillo type thing. We got to go and kill a bunch of those to be able to get their carapaces. So we throw them in here. We need a total of 10 to be able to do that research. And we don't have any of this particular unit to be able to research that. But there is opportunities for us to be able to research. And as we research down, we're going to get new recipes to be able to do things. So that's interesting to note there. So right now, we're going to be able to make biomass out of these in the future. So as we kill those alien things, we'll be able to get some of the biomass. Let's look at what else we can... Nutrients. So that is going to be on this tree. We'll throw these in here. Actually, we just have to click on it and click research. Hello. Start researching. Bam! Okay, we have researched that, which is unlocked this one for us. This has got 3 different objects that we need to be able to focus on to be able to eventually get to constructing. That's what that is unlocked for us. But we can also go now and research these ones. Start researching. That is also just unlocked this tree for us even more. And then we can research these berries when we do find them as well too. I don't think it really, like, as long as you got one of these done, it gets you to the point where you can, well, it does say that it's still locked, but I think it's only because we can't afford to be able to put it in there. If we had these materials, we'd be able to crank this out, but obviously we don't have them yet because there's a whole bunch more things we've got to do some serious leveling up to be able to do that. And sulfur, I don't think I've even picked up any sulfur yet for us to take advantage of being able to gather that. Let's look at my little storage chest here. No, it doesn't look like, oh, wait, no. We did pick up some sulfur near the beginning there. Never mind, let's grab this. We can select here and start researching. This only takes 3 seconds. As we get further down the list, it takes longer to research. So what is this black powder?
The resource scanner.
So coal and sulfur combined is what we'll need to be able to make black powder. And obviously that's going to expand down into new things as well too. So there's some field research that we got taken care of. And now we got to start focusing a little bit more on efficiencies. Because we've got our splitters and stuff, we should be taking better advantage of what's coming off of our production lines and into our various machines to be able to get the most out of what we're making. But we also have our tiers that we need to keep going on. So tier 2 is our next one. We have parts assembly we have to do. We've got obstacle clearing, which gets us a chainsaw. I think this one is probably our most important at the moment. Really all we need is 500 screws to be able to do it. Because this gets us the chainsaw. That means we can go around and cut down trees and stuff. And we will get solid biofuel, which is like the next step up on biofuels that we can use that is way more efficient, burns a lot slower, so our generators will generate more power and last longer. So this is the one I think we should be focusing on now, which is just a matter of waiting for these screws. So once I've got those screws, we'll get that recorded, and then we'll get ourselves a chainsaw made up. Okay, while I was waiting for the screws again to manufacture, I did end up building a conveyor line that is now feeding our concrete all the way from our concrete manufacturing all the way down, and is going to start storing it in this little storage area right here. So I did have a little bit of a power blip to the 2 biogenerators at the back of our hab, ended up running out of fuel, which then caused everything to shut down for a bit. So that's why there was a bit of a gap in the concrete here, but now things are all back up and running again. That's working. The plate is working. So now we can go and get our next little phase here done. And I think now that I'm going to have this done, let's go and let's grab our obstacles. Let's select our milestone. And we are going with screws first. So the screws are loaded. We're going with our cable next. And then our concrete. And launch away. Say bye to our delivery units.
Biofuel will ensure maximum efficiency of biomass burners. To aid in biofuel production, you are now capable of removing foliage that consists primarily of wood. Additionally, R&D inflated your pocket dimension.
Alright, so now we can manufacture a chainsaw, which is 5 hardened or reinforced plates, some rods, some screws, and some cabling, and we actually have this done right now. So we'll craft this out right now. That is good to go. Okay, so we have our chainsaw. Now our chainsaw runs off of solid biofuel though, and we don't have any of that yet. So let's hit our tab key. Let's equip our chainsaw. That's there. We'll equip our Xeno Zapper. Now we're going to have to do a little bit of manual kind of building here. And the first thing is we're going to make some biomass. So I'm going to convert this wood that I've got into biomass really quick. This doesn't take long to do. And in fact, we're already like miles ahead of where we need to be. So, well, it's already done. Look at that. That didn't take long. Now I'm creating some solid biofuel. Now we have some solid biofuel, and I'm just going to stop there because we're going to automate that process, but we're going to need to gather up a bunch more wood and stuff. So now that we've got some fuel, look, we just run over to these trees here. And we could start doing some clear gutting. Bam! We got 51 leaves and 21 wood from that. So now, all of a sudden, we could just spend some time gathering up all these materials. And like 24 more leaves, 7 more wood. And we can automate this process for making our solid biofuel. So that's going to be kind of the next phase of what we've got to do is automating our fuel production. And I did make a spot over here that's already kind of geared up for it. So I'm going to convert this little area here where basically we load in leaves and wood at one end. And then that all feeds through and ends up making our solid biofuel at the end of it. So be right back once I have that all constructed, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so I have gone through and automated the fuel manufacturing at this point. So to start off, we load in wood into this storage unit. We load in leaves into this storage unit. And then leaf production is, oh, I have this one set wrong. Let's go back to the recipe. This is biomass leaves. So this is converting leaves into biomass. This is converting wood into biomass, as we can see right now. Then these two biomass lines end up coming out of here into this merger and end up feeding this line here with biomass that then converts it to solid biofuel. And the solid biofuel ends up coming out here into storage inside this storage container. Now, there's a couple of inefficiencies that are happening. First things first, this can take up to 120 leaves per minute. This conveyor belt maximum can do is 60. So we have a little bit of a bottleneck happening right here. So when we get the opportunity that we can upgrade to Mark II conveyors, that's going to happen right here. This conveyor will need to get upgraded to a Mark II conveyor. Then this ends up coming out of here at 60 per minute. Well, this is 60 per minute going on this side. If we look over here, this can take this could take 60 wood per minute, so we're okay. This conveyor, it's 60 items per minute, so there's no need to upgrade. But what's being exited out of here is 300 biomass per minute. Well, right now, that's going to be producing way more biomass than any of our systems can actually be able to handle. So we'll have to upgrade this to a Mark II conveyor, later a Mark III conveyor, and then this definitely needs to get up to Mark II or Mark III conveyor so that we can get the efficiencies happening properly between these two units. Because this can take up to 120 items per minute. So if we get this one just up to Mark II conveyor, that's going to be 120 items. Well, that's as fast as this can take. But then we have a little bit of a bottleneck that's happening here. So we may end up having to put in we'll basically split off this line into two separate productions for being able to make our solid biofuel. But by the time that ends up coming around, we'll be into coal power generation, so on and so forth. So this may be sufficient for what we need to do right now with some minor tweaks on efficiency with this conveyor belt and that conveyor belt. So that's things that we need to look into. Now, it's just a matter of us going around gathering up a whole pile of materials so that we can keep this stockpiled so that every time we need fuel for our generators, it's alive and ready to go. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. I think this is probably as good a place as any to kind of end this episode. Next episode, we'll be obviously working to trying to get some more tiers going. But I mean, look, we're a whole, like, we did the basic starter tutorial, and we're already miles ahead of where we were at the end of the last episode with how our production's happening. We've got steady stream of concrete. We've got steady stream of iron rods coming up here, iron screws down there. We've got iron plates over there. We still need to do reinforced iron plates, and we need to double the manufacturing that's coming out of our two smelters. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next time. There'll be a bunch of rearranging, a bunch of moving and maneuvering. But in the meantime, I need to get some fuel. So I'm going to go take care of getting all the raw materials for our fuel manufacturing. And with that said, make sure you guys hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, ring that notification bell, leave some comments down here, tell me what you thought, and what ideas you think I should be working towards on this. Ultimately, I want to be able to automate the manufacturing of every single item in the game to a point that's also as close as possible to 100% efficiency. And if that means that we end up having to get ridiculously large, so be it. But we are going to eventually get there. But let me know what your thoughts are on the process that we got and how far we got. With that said, you guys all have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next episode.